of the program.
I want to do a brief introduction for our Sangha that doesn't know you quite as well, so before we get going. And also welcome your Sangha from around the world. We're so excited to have everyone here. For our Sangha, Dr. Lye grew up in a Buddhist home in Malaysia. From a young age, he studied and practiced Buddhism with teachers of various traditions. He met his first Tibetan teacher in the United States when he was an undergraduate student. And after earning a doctorate degree in Buddhist studies at University of Virginia and teaching for 10 years in American academic institutions, Dr. Lye, and I said it wrong earlier, left academia to devote his energy fully to Dharma work. In 2013, he was appointed as a master of his lineage, and I'm going to let him explain that lineage after we get done, and was formally enthroned in his home city in Malaysia. When not teaching, leading retreats, or serving the lineage in Asia and North and South America, Dr. Lye teaches in Asheville, where he is founder and spiritual director at Urban Dharma, North Carolina. Thank you for joining us this evening.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. Basically, I grew up in Malaysia, and to kind of clarify a little bit, Buddhism in Malaysia is very much, in a way, it's like Buddhism in the United States, as in it doesn't, even though it's in Asia, it doesn't have one predominant form of Buddhism there. In fact, all the different forms of Buddhism that you see in the United States, you see in Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, that region there. Not Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, where there are, dominant forms of Buddhism, but in like Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, the Philippines, in that part of Southeast Asia, even though there are lots of Buddhist communities, but there's no one dominant tradition. And so I grew up with the attitude that Buddhism is Buddhism is Buddhism. It didn't really matter that much. The main kind of supporters of Buddhism, the main adherents of Buddhism in those parts of Southeast Asia are actually ethnic Chinese communities that have settled there over the generations. And so for the ethnic Chinese Buddhist communities, we basically go to all the traditions. Typical full moon, new moon day, will begin, very early in the day doing dana at a Theravada monastery. It could be Sri Lankan, it could be Burmese, it could be Thailand. And then the morning service at a Chinese Buddhist place. And then, lunchtime, dana again at another Theravada place. Then something to do in the afternoon, and then maybe a Tibetan center in the evening. So that's just people kind of slide in and out. Myself, not even any kind of like choice as in, I'm going to choose to practice this or choose to practice that. But when I came to the United States for college in the late 80s, the closest Buddhist center, which was in Rochester, New York, the closest Buddhist center I was able to connect with was a Tibetan Buddhist center in the Kagyu lineage of Tibetan Buddhism, more specifically Drikung Kagyu. So that center was in that tradition. So I went there, and then from there, now almost 30 years later, here I am, parked in that tradition. Not so much like making a conscious choice and going, I like this better than I like that. It's like whatever turned up, I just took the next step. So that's a little bit more in terms of my background in Buddhism. So tonight, I thought what I might share with all of you is something actually very basic. It's what's commonly translated as the Four Noble Truths. Yeah, the Four Noble Truths that I'm very sure with our group here today, all of you basically already know what the Four Noble Truths are. But sometimes we have become so familiar with the Four Noble Truths that ironically we have also forgotten what the Four Noble Truths are, and more importantly, like how we relate to this, what's known as the Four Noble Truths, how we relate to it. Sometimes we forget, and I feel that that's often where the problem, so to say, is we forget, especially so. For 10 years, I taught in religious studies departments. So, frequently you have to offer a course like Introduction to World Religions or Introduction to Asian Religions, something like that. And so as you go through all that material, you start with whatever religion you start with, and you say, and so they believe this, and that, and they practice this, and that. And almost always in those books, when it comes to Buddhism, it will, again, the founder is this, and then, and Buddhists believe in this, that, right? Four Noble Truths and, no attachment, blah, blah, blah. If you actually look at these textbooks, you can see that it's almost like identical, right? All the sections are identical. Then, whether you know it or not consciously, you are lining up, right? Our Buddhist side, we have Four Noble Truths. The Christian side, they have the Trinity, right? The Muslim side, they have the Five Pillars of Faith. Then you think that they are equivalents. Yeah? You think that they belong to the same category. It's just different people believing different things. So that is frequently what happens to something like the Four Noble Truths. It becomes an article of faith. Of course, if we, ask, is this what you believe in? Maybe, I think many of us will say, oh, no, we don't believe in that. But often I find that in our behavior, we have often turned something like the Four Noble Truths into a set of beliefs that I sign up, I sign my name after. So I'm a card-carrying Buddhist now, or I'm a card-carrying, meditator in the insight tradition or the, Mahamudra tradition or whatever, right? And you're like, well, all self-respecting card-carrying Buddhists, on the other side of the card is we believe in, like the Apostles' Creed or the Nicene Creed, right? But the Buddha never meant the Four Noble Truths to be taken as articles of faith, as something to believe. In fact, with each of these so-called truths, right? The Buddha had a different verb that he gave with regards to each of these Four Noble Truths. So there are four verbs associated to these four truths, and none of these four verbs has anything to do with believing. accepting even. Right? In fact, these 4 verbs has nothing to do with belief. Yeah? So sometimes the culprit, I think, is in the word truth, because there's a lot of baggage with truth, especially when this 5-letter word, turns up in religion or in spirituality even. Yeah? And then it gets worse when you capitalize it. The capital T truth, the truth. Well, if it is true, right, especially in the department of religion, what else is there to do but to believe? We fall back into this. So even though on the one hand we know, no, that's not how you relate to the 4 Noble Truths. But there is a tendency that over time, we believe in the 4 Noble Truths. So sometimes I joke, I say, I think it is better that if we really want to have the right or skillful relationship with what the Buddha taught that is known as the 4 Noble Truths, it's better if we translate it as, or call it, the 4 Noble Rumors. It has been rumored. So they are not like fake news or, in that sense. Yeah. So we call them noble rumors. But they are rumors. Why? Because until and unless I come face to face with this and can verify from my own experience that this is fact, then it remains a rumor. But a rumor that we want to verify. Because the Buddha says, in verifying these 4 noble rumors, noble because the Buddha taught this. Yeah? And the Buddha taught this because he did see these as truth. So it's capital T for the Buddha, not yet for us. But because for whatever mysterious reason, traditional Buddhists will say karma from previous lifetimes, so much merit that somehow, we have some kind of mysterious trust. If the Buddha said this, I am willing to investigate. So we call them noble rumors. So we approach them as noble rumors to be verified, to be confirmed. So that's the difference between just, rumors, which is, I don't know, maybe true, maybe not true. So here I'm saying, as a Dharma practitioner, we have more than that. We say, on some level, I get it that this is what Siddhartha saw. And on some level, I trust that he wasn't lying. He wasn't making this up. But now I need to verify it. How do we verify this? So this is when we come to the 4 verbs associated with the 4 Noble Truths, which the Buddha taught in the first formal teaching that he gave at Deer Park to the 5 ascetics who were previously his companions and who were then previous to that, they were basically aristocratic sons of aristocratic families of his father's kingdom, which his father sent to go bring my son back. He's having some weird disappointments, ideas. Go bring him back. But instead, these 5 young men decided, they would join him. But at some point, they got this illusion because they thought he had slacked, because he seemed to have given up on self-mortification as the way to kind of overcome the prison of materiality, of physicality. So the spiritual traditions of the Buddha's time thought that body is the problem. So if we could somehow, right, free the spirit from the body, then we are liberated. At a certain point, the Buddha, Siddhartha, understood that's not going to really solve this problem that I'm trying to solve. So then it said that these 5 left him. But right after he awoke, he became Buddha, right? Which is what Buddha means, the awakened one. Soon after that, about 7 weeks after that, he went and sought out these 5 companions. And that was when, for the first time, he taught in a formal way what is known as the setting of the wheel of Dharma in motion. It is there that the 4 Noble Truths were taught. And so when you look at the 4 Noble Truths there, if you look carefully, so first of all, the 4 truths, often what people repeat, what we know is there is the truth of dukkha, which is translated as suffering, dis-ease, dissatisfaction, stress, that whole range from simply dis-ease all the way to, full-blown suffering, where you're yelling and screaming, all of that, dukkha. So the noble truth of dukkha, then the noble truth of the cause of dukkha, which is thirst, trishna, grasping. So then the third noble truth is the noble truth of cessation, the ending of dukkha. And the fourth noble truth is the path to the end of dukkha. So that's usually when we talk about the 4 noble truths, everybody know these 4. Just to point out, you can divide these 4 further, or not divide further, but you can simplify it to 2 points: dukkha and its end. So sometimes the Buddha says, in some of the texts you can find, he says, I only teach 2 things: dukkha and its cessation. Then another thing to point out, these 4 truths, is also about cause and effect. Cause and effect. So the first noble truth is the effect. Second noble truth is the cause. Because of grasping being the cause, because of this thirst being the cause, dukkha is the result. The third and the fourth noble truth, cessation and the path to cessation, again, there is a cause and effect going on there. The effect is cessation, and the cause is the path. So in another way, you could say cause and effect lies at the heart of what the Buddha taught. So if we think, cause and effect, that's just simply, sometimes this is repeated. They say, karma, cause and effect, that's just what Indians were believing, So the Buddha, being a product of his time, he just simply, adopted this karma business. I think that's a mistake. No, at the heart of what he discovered, at the heart of what he woke up to, it's the unmistaken way in which cause and effect works. So that's another important point. Now, finally, what are the 4 verbs with regards to the truth of dukkha? he says, recognize that, see that. Recognize that, see that. Sometimes people say to me, oh, can you not talk about dukkha so much? Because I already know that. It's like, it's really depressing enough. Could you like move on to the next thing? Actually, we don't see dukkha. If we really see dukkha, if we really understand dukkha, then the next noble truth, very easily, we will get. We will understand what is the cause of dukkha. But because we don't understand dukkha, so I joked, I said, this thing that we call samsara, confused existence, it's like a prison. And this prison doesn't only use force to keep us in. The prison also has what I call, many of you guys who are part of our group will know this. I said the prison has the Martha Stewart Prison Improvement Committee. So every time you try to jailbreak, they will send you a committee from the Martha Stewart cell improvement to keep you, content there. Oh, it's not so bad after all. What about we repaint this wall? What about we rearrange the furniture? And then happily we stay for another few years. Then you get frustrated, Then they send in the Martha Stewart committee to further tweak with things. So we don't see dukkha. If we really see dukkha, we see the cause of dukkha. And if we really understand the cause of dukkha, then the verb that the Buddha used for that is, he says, relinquish. Let go already. Put it down. Relinquish the cause of dukkha. With the third noble truth, the verb used is experience cessation. There's the ultimate cessation with the Big Bang and all the halo coming out and light shooting out of your head. And now you are Buddha, and whatever tree you happen to sit under, whether it's dogwood or oak, becomes Bodhi tree. Okay, there's that cessation. But it doesn't mean, like until that happens, we have no clue what cessation is. Because to whatever degree we are able to relinquish the cause of dukkha, we get a little taste of what the cessation is. And so the Buddha says, experience this cessation. Get a taste of this cessation. Because once you get a taste of this, then you are already on your way to not getting entangled so easily. And finally, the fourth noble truth, the path. And this is one of my favorite ones in terms of pointing out why the verb for the path is so interesting. Interestingly, the verb for the path is not walk the path. And you're like, wait, how come it's not walk the path? Because the path, which is a metaphor, right? Basically, it's talking about the process of unentangling, the process of becoming free. With regards to that process, the Buddha used this word, develop. He did not say even follow. Because I really feel that to follow and to like walk is to take the analogy of path in a direction that the Buddha did not teach. Because the notion of a path is, let's say, I say, go on 40 from Asheville until you hit 77, take a right, exit, and you'll end up in Charlotte, right? So that's taking the path, walking the path, driving the path. But the Buddha used the word develop. So what does he mean? So now I think we have to put the analogy, the metaphor of path as in road where you follow, put that aside, and notice that what he's saying here is, with regards to this process of waking up, it is something that has to be developed and cultivated. He's not saying, go make up your own way to freedom. A little bit of Sufi, a little bit of Vipassana, a little bit of, channeling, a little bit of rolling, and sweating, and, and then you develop your path. No, he's not talking about that. He's talking about the teachings that I've given you, the methods that I've given you, the prompts that I have given you. It has to be developed within your own experience, within your own process. You have to be honest with your own process, and how that process unfolds will determine what is the next step. So the path is not something set. The path is not something set that, oh, I just need to find the entrance to that highway and then just keep driving after that. So this is my personal kind of belief, that I think as much as, Buddhists throughout time have, looked at the suttas and tried to chart out a very kind of, clear, right, path, roadmap to awakening. And this is the strength, I think, of the Buddhist tradition, having a clear roadmap. But map is not territory. The menu is not the meal. So sometimes I think we get misled. We think, I got the menu. I should be full now, No, you can't eat the menu. The map is not territory. This is something that we have to develop within our own process. So in this way, we can see that the Buddha says, you come and you investigate. As you not come and argue. In the Dhammapada, he says, the only people who argue and fight are people who forget that you will die. It doesn't have to be even like, the kind of death where people are stuck with, figuring out what to do with all your stuff. But all different kinds of deaths, that we forget when things fall apart. So he says only those who are contentious, cantankerous, basically they forget, we will die. So not so much to argue, but to investigate, to verify, and to taste, right, this cessation that he reached, that many others in following, developing, letting this process actually start, and going through the process, arrive at the state of being awake. So that's all, in terms of what I thought I would say. Maybe now is a good time to chit-chat.